Chapter 2, Section 5, Arrangement of the Superior Orders. Let us next proceed with the answers, one after another, to the questions which have been asked. There is then the good, both that which is beyond essence and that which exists through essence. I am speaking of that essence which is the most ancient and most to be revered, and which as to is incorporeal. Footnote 18. This is the common dogma of every ancient faith. In the Hindu category, the Brahman is the good, which is beyond essence and absolute, while Brahma is identical with essence. The Parsis acknowledge Zurvan, the unlimited, and Ahura Mazda, the divine creator. The Egyptian priests worshipped Amun, the hidden one, and Ptah, the demiurgos, or architect of the universe. The idea that Zurvan, time, created Ahura Mazda is considered a heresy to orthodox Zoroastrianism. It is a special peculiarity of the gods and is characteristic of all the races that are included with them, and hence not being divided from this, but existing in like manner the same in them all, it preserves their peculiar distribution and arrangement. Souls. But with souls that are ruling over bodies, that are occupied with the care of them, and that are placed in order apart by themselves in the eternal regions, before the transition to generated existence, there is not present either the essence of the good, or the cause, or supreme principle of the good, which is prior to essence. But there comes from it a certain participation and habit of good, as we perceive that a sharing of beauty and virtue is very different from what we observe with human beings. For this is equivocal, and becomes manifest in complex natures as soul thing acquired. But the principle of goodness is established unchangeable and perpetual in the souls. It never at any time goes away from itself, nor is it taken away by anything else. Daemons and heroes or half-gods. Such then being the case with the divine races, the first and the last, the gods and souls, let us consider the two races intermediate between these two extremes, namely, one, that of heroes or half-gods, which not only ranks higher than the order of souls in power and virtue, moral beauty and greatness, and excels it in every good quality which is incident in souls, but is also closely joined to them by the kindred relationship of a similar form of life. 2. The other, the race of daemons, which is closely allied to the gods, yet is in a certain sense inferior to them, following as though it was not first in rank, but accompanying in subservience to the good pleasure of the gods. This race causes the otherwise invisible goodness of the gods to become visible in operation, becoming itself both assimilated to it and accomplishing perfect works that are like it. For then what was before unutterable in it is made capable of being uttered. What was without form is caused to shire forth invisible figures. Whatever of it was beyond all reasoning is brought forth into plain words, and having already received the connate participation of beautiful gifts, it bestows the same ungrudgingly, and transfers them to the races that rank after itself. Thus, these intermediate races complete the common bond of gods and souls, and render the connection between them indissoluble. They not only bind these together in one continuous series, from those on high to the very last, but they make the union of them all incapable of being separated, and to be a most perfect blending and an equal intermingling of them all. They likewise, after a manner, cause an outgoing influence to go forth equally from the superior to the inferior races, and a reciprocal one from subordinate races to those ranking above them. They also establish order among the more imperfect races, and likewise due proportions of the gift coming down from the better ones and of the reception which takes place. And having themselves received from above, from the gods, the causes or motives of all these, they make everything agreeable and suited in every respect to it all. Thou must not think, therefore, that this classification is a peculiarity of powers, or of energies, or of essence, nor art thou taking them separately, to inspect them one by one. Nevertheless, by extending the inquiry through all of them, thou wilt complete the answer to what was asked in relation to the peculiarities of gods, daemons, and half-gods, and of those that are included in the category of souls. Let us proceed again by another line of argument. Everything, whatever it may be, and of whatever quality, that is united, that is firmly established in itself by unalterable law, is a cause among the indivisible essences, that is immovable, and so is to be considered as the cause of all motion, that is superior to all things and has nothing whatever in common with them, that is to be generally considered as wholly unmingled and separate, not only in being but in power and energy. Every such thing should be ascribed to the gods as being worthy of them. But that which is already divided into a great member, that which can give itself to other objects, that which both receives from others the limitation within itself and is sufficient for the distribution among imperfect ones to make these complete, that nevertheless participates in the primary and life-giving motion, and has communion with all things self-existent and coming into existence, that receives a commingling of substances from them all, and imparts a radiating influence from itself to all, and that extends these peculiar properties through all the powers, essences, and energies in itself. All this, speaking what is true, we shall ascribe to souls, as being implanted in them. Footnote 19. Iamblichus is generally regarded as here endeavoring to reconcile the apparent discrepancy between Plato and Aristotle. The latter described the soul as immovable, and Plato as self-moving, in which statement he refers to operation and not to essence. Syrianos explains that the soul is self-moving because it is set in motion from itself, and certainly not by an agent inferior to itself. Proclus adds that the soul is self-moved in respect to the body and things of sense which plainly are set in motion from without themselves. The intermediate races. What shall we say then in regard to the intermediate races? I think from what has been said already that they are sufficiently manifest to everyone, for they make complete the indivisible connection between the extreme races. Footnote 20. The gods above and the souls below, angels, daemons, and demigods. Nevertheless, it is necessary to continue the explanation. I assume accordingly the race of daemons to be a multitude in one, to be commingled in an unmingled manner, and to accept the lower races as associated with a distinct concept of the most excellent. But on the other hand, I describe the race of heroes or demigods as being placed over more common distribution and multitude, and likewise over action and commingling and matters akin to these. It also receives gifts from above, transcendent, and as though concealed within. I mean union, purity of nature, stable condition, and undivided identity and superiority over others. For each of these intermediate races is next to one of the extreme races beyond, one to the first and the other to the last. It follows as a natural result that by a continued series of kindred relations, the daemonian race, beginning from the highest in rank, proceeds to the lower races, and that the other, having primarily a connection with the last of them all, should in some way have some communication with those that are superior. Hence, there may be perceived the complete joining together into one of the first and last races, the gods and souls, through the intermediates, the daemons and half-gods, and the entire sameness of nature, alike equally in substance, and also alike in power and energy. Footnote 21. This distinction of principles is noted in the Chaldean oracles. Pythagoras indicates the same by the terms monad, duad, and triad. Damaskios by the one, the many, and the union. Another version of the oracles, in place of substance, has father, and for energy, mind or reason. Whereas, therefore, we have made the classification of the four races in these two ways perfectly complete, we think it sufficient in regard to the others that for the sake of brevity, and because that which remains, the comprehending of the intermediate tribes, is in a measure already plain. We exhibit only the peculiarities of the extreme races. Hence, we shall pass over the intermediate tribes as being already well known, and make a sketch of the others in some way in very few words.